They knew exactly what they had, and they still dropped it. That's not just a mistake, that's humiliation. Because here's the truth, the chosen ones weren't hidden, they weren't pretending, they weren't begging for recognition. You were right there in front of them, shining in plain sight, and they still convinced themselves you were ordinary. That's the crime. They fumbled you not because you were invisible, but because they were blind. And blindness like that always ends in regret. Look at how they move now. The silence, the awkward stares, the fake smiles covering up what's really happening behind closed doors. They whisper about you in private because saying your name out loud reminds them of how badly they messed up. They didn't just drop the ball, they lost the whole game, and the air around them feels heavy with shame every time your name comes up. They can't even celebrate their fake wins because the ghost of their mistake, fumbling you, hangs over them like a shadow. Chosen ones, this is the aftermath. The storm is over, but the ground is still wet with their failures. You walk steady, calm, untouchable, while they hide, embarrassed, replaying the moment they let you slip through their hands. They thought life would go on the same without you, but it didn't. They thought you were replaceable, but the replacements keep breaking down like cheap knockoffs. Every attempt they make at recreating you only reminds them that you cannot be duplicated. That silence they live in now. It's not peace, it's punishment. And chosen ones, while we're here, let me pause for a second to thank you for standing strong, for showing up, and for being part of this mission. If this message is hitting home already, do me a favor. Press that like button and subscribe right now. It's not just support, it's a way of sending this truth louder into the world. Together, we amplify the voice they tried so hard to silence. Back to it, because here's where it gets even uglier for them. Research shows most people don't realize the worth of rare things until after they're gone. Psychologists call it the endowment effect. Once you lose something valuable, the mind exaggerates what it had. Now think about that in real life. They walk past your old pictures, stumble across your name, hear your laugh echo in their memory, and suddenly it hits them like a truck. I really lost that. The embarrassment burns deeper each time because they know it wasn't stolen from them. They threw it away themselves. You don't lose a diamond while playing in the dirt. You fumble it when you forget its worth. And chosen ones, that's exactly what they did. The universe doesn't give out blessings recklessly. You were in their life as an opportunity, a light, a mirror that could have made them better. But instead of protecting it, they mishandled it. And the truth? You can never go back and undo a fumble like that. You can only sit in the shame of knowing you were holding treasure and treated it like trash. Think about history. How many times have we seen it repeat? Legends ignored in their own time, only celebrated after the fact. Artists mocked until their work became priceless. Visionaries doubted until their inventions changed the world. The same pattern is playing out in your life. They laughed, they mocked, they ignored, and now they sit there embarrassed because you were the one. You were the rare find they'll never come across again. Chosen ones, this is your vindication. This is the universe proving what you knew all along. Their rejection wasn't a loss, it was a redirection. Their mishandling wasn't a reflection of your worth, it was a reflection of their blindness. And now, every step you take forward is another reminder to them of what they can never get back. The power flipped. The silence speaks louder than words, and their embarrassment echoes every time you rise higher. So let this sink in. They didn't just fumble you, They exposed themselves, their poor judgment, their shallow vision, their fragile ego. All of it is out in the open now, and the chosen ones. You walk forward, stronger, glowing, untouchable. They sit in the ruins of their choices, embarrassed, replaying the moment they let you go, knowing deep down it was the dumbest mistake of their lives. And chosen ones, let me ask you something real. Are you ready to walk with me through the raw truth of this story? Because what we're about to uncover isn't just another message. It's the mirror your enemies can't escape from. Every step we take will peel back another layer of their embarrassment, another scene of them fumbling something they'll never get back. You. If you've ever felt overlooked, doubted, or underestimated, then you'll recognize yourself in every word. Drop the number 777 in the comments if you know deep down that they fumbled the rarest one in the room. And while you're here, hit that like button and subscribe, because the more we grow, the louder this truth spreads, and the harder it hits those who tried to bury it. You're not just watching a video, you're part of a movement, a family of chosen ones rising together. So lean in, don't click away, because the deeper we go, the more you'll realize just how laughable their mistake really was. They thought they won when they let you go, but now the universe is proving it's the most embarrassing loss they'll ever face. Let's get into it. Number 1, they confused your stillness with surrender, and now they're paying the price. Never mistake a quiet warrior for a weak one. Silence isn't surrender, it's the calm before the strike. The first and perhaps most humiliating mistake they made was this: they looked at your calm and thought it was weakness. To them, your steady silence, your refusal to react to every provocation, your ability to let certain things pass without exploding, it all looked like submission. They told themselves you were harmless, that you had no fight in you. But chosen ones, isn't it funny how those who scream the loudest always underestimate the ones who move in silence? They thought your calm meant you didn't notice. But tell me, do you really miss the way they rolled their eyes, the subtle jabs slipped into conversations, the boundary pushing, the testing, the little manipulations they thought were slick? Of course you saw it. You saw it all. Calmness doesn't mean blindness. Calmness means control. And control, chosen ones, is the very thing they lacked. They were loud, reckless, predictable. You were measured, patient, deliberate. Think about it like a game of chess. While they rushed pawns across the board, you were already thinking 10 moves ahead. They thought they were in control because you weren't shouting. But silence is not weakness. It's a strategy. It's the power of someone who knows the battle is already won without raising their voice. The loudest person in the room is usually the weakest. That's not just a quote. It's a fact proven time and again in human behavior. Studies in psychology show that people who lack control often overcompensate with noise, aggression, and constant validation seeking. That was them. And while they misread your calm as fragility, it was really the quiet signal of someone who refuses to waste energy on fools. Let me ask you, how many times did you feel the urge to clap back, to call them out, to throw every fact in their face? But you didn't. Why? Because you already knew they weren't worth the energy. You knew that silence can wound deeper than words. You understood that distance can suffocate louder than confrontation, and in the end, that's exactly what happened. The turning point always comes. It came when they pushed too far, when they thought they could test you one more time, cross one more line, disrespect you one more moment, and you didn't snap, you didn't argue, you didn't explain. You simply pulled back, quietly, deliberately, permanently. And suddenly their world shifted. The silence they once mocked became the silence that haunted them. The absence of your presence became a mirror, reflecting their own weakness back at them. Let's make this clear. Your calm was never naivety. It was never weakness. It was patience. It was wisdom. It was restraint. And restraint is something they will never understand because their egos don't allow it. They embarrass themselves by mistaking your stillness for surrender. They fumbled by thinking they had power over someone who was actually holding all the cards. Think about it like the ocean. From the surface, calm waters look harmless, almost fragile, but underneath, the current is powerful enough to move mountains. They judged the surface, not realizing the depth beneath it. And when they tried to play with those waters, they drowned in their own arrogance. Patience is the weapon of the strong. History proves this over and over. The greatest leaders, warriors, and innovators were always underestimated because they didn't flaunt their power. They let results speak. They let silence carry weight. And chosen ones, you're no different. While they were laughing, you were building. While they were mocking, you were planning. While they were underestimating, you were rising. So now here they are, sitting in the silence of their regret. Do you know what's worse than anger? Indifference. When you walked away without a scene, without a breakdown, without even giving them the satisfaction of your rage. That's when they realized. Rage they could have handled. A fight they could have engaged with. But silence? Silence is final. Silence is irreversible. Silence is the one thing they can't fight back against. And here's the embarrassing part for them. They thought you would always be there. They thought you'd tolerate, endure, absorb, forgive endlessly. But calm doesn't mean endless tolerance. Calm means knowing when to walk away without looking back. And when you did, they weren't ready for it. Now they're left fumbling through memories, replaying conversations, cringing at how badly they miscalculated. They confused your stillness with surrender, and now they're paying the price. Because that stillness was your warning. That quietness was the final chance they ignored. And the moment you withdrew your energy, you showed them just how powerless they really were. They fumbled not just a person, they fumbled a force. They fumbled someone the universe had equipped with patience sharper than any weapon. So chosen ones, let this fuel you. Let their mistake remind you of your strength. Calm is not weakness. Silence is not surrender. Distance is not defeat. Those are the marks of someone in control, someone untouchable, someone they'll never have access to again. They embarrassed themselves thinking your calm was fragile, but now that same calm is the storm they'll never escape from. Number 2. They tried to be the judge of your worth, but you were never on trial. A lion doesn't lose sleep over the opinion of sheep. Let's be blunt, one of their most embarrassing mistakes was believing their validation was the key to your worth. They acted like their approval was some golden ticket, as if without their stamp, you'd never fully matter. In their minds, they were the gatekeepers, the ones who could decide whether you were deserving of respect, attention, or recognition. But tell me, chosen ones, when did their claps, likes, or empty praises ever define who you were? Never. And that's exactly why this mistake stings them so hard today. They thought you craved their attention the way others did. They thought withholding compliments, offering backhanded support, or giving you crumbs of acknowledgement would keep you in their orbit. But you weren't dancing for scraps. You weren't begging for their nod. While they were busy playing the role of judge and jury, you had already walked out of the courtroom. You knew you didn't need their verdict because you were never on trial to begin with. Validation from the wrong people is like counterfeit money. It looks valuable until you try to spend it. And that's what they were offering. Counterfeit validation. Fake praise, shallow approval. They wanted to make you believe their opinion was currency, but you saw it for what it was. Monopoly money with no real value. Your worth wasn't tied to their fragile ego, and that's what they never expected. Imagine this, a king sitting on a throne made of paper, believing his crown makes him powerful. That's how they carried themselves. They thought by withholding praise or dangling recognition like bait, they could control you. But when you didn't chase, when you didn't flinch, when you didn't break at their silence, that's when the cracks in their illusion showed. Because power over someone only works when that person believes you have it. And you didn't. Now let me ask you this. How embarrassing must it feel to realize the person you thought depended on your validation never needed it in the first place? To realize you had no control, no influence, no leverage. That's the reality they're living in now. While they sit there wondering why their games didn't work on you, you're already on the next chapter of your life, shining brighter than ever, untouched by their opinion. Confidence is quiet, insecurity is loud, and you embodied that truth. You moved with quiet confidence, an energy that said, "I know who I am, with or without your approval." And that confused them. Because in their world, people beg, people bend, people shrink themselves for a pat on the head. But not you. You walked with the weight of someone who knew their worth came from within, not from outside applause. Think of it like this. Imagine a diamond sitting in the dirt. It doesn't stop being a diamond because someone fails to recognize it. It doesn't lose value just because a fool calls it a rock. That's you. Their inability to see your brilliance didn't mean it wasn't there. It just meant they lacked the eyes to recognize it. And now, that ignorance has cost them dearly. They fumbled you because they misjudged the source of your self-assurance. They believed they could manipulate you into proving yourself to them. They thought withholding love, support, or encouragement would weaken you. But instead, it only revealed how unimportant their validation really was. You weren't trying to win their approval. You were busy winning at life. If you live for their approval, you'll die from their rejection. That's a truth they'll never admit, because deep down, they're the ones trapped in that cycle. They thrive on others validating them, so they assumed you were the same. But when you didn't break, when you didn't beg, when you didn't cling, you exposed the hollowness of their power. You showed them you were self-made, and they were just background noise. Now think of this image, a stage with spotlights. They thought they were the ones deciding whether you deserved to stand in the light. But in reality, you owned the stage. They were just sitting in the audience, powerless, clapping or booing, thinking it changed the performance. It didn't. The show went on with or without them, and now they're left outside the theater, embarrassed, wishing they had played their role better. And here's the gut-punching truth. They wanted to be the ones who discovered you. They wanted to take credit for your shine, to say, "I made them, I built them, I saw their worth first." But they can't, because your glow was never theirs to dim or claim. You didn't need their cosign then, and you sure as hell don't need it now. Imagine a painter who ignores a masterpiece on the canvas because they can't see past their own limited taste. Years later, the world celebrates that masterpiece, and suddenly the painter looks like a fool for missing it. That's them. They thought their opinion set the standard. Instead, their blindness only exposed their lack of vision. So, chosen ones, let this sit deep. They didn't just fumble your presence. They fumbled the chance to say they supported you when it mattered. They fumbled the right to claim they saw your greatness before the world did. And now, every accomplishment you reach, every milestone you hit, every new level you climb, it cuts them with embarrassment. because they're forced to admit they never validated you when it counted. And what's worse, their validation means even less now than it ever did. You've outgrown them, outpaced them, outshined them. Their claps, their praise, their sudden "I always knew" comments, all of it is hollow. Because you know the truth, they never believed until it was too late. The world's applause is temporary. Self-belief is eternal. And you carry that eternal fire. They couldn't break it, they couldn't control it, and they sure as hell can't claim it. That's why their embarrassment runs so deep. They thought they mattered more than they did. But in the story of your life, they were never the main character. At best, they were a footnote, and not even a flattering one. They tried to be the judge of your worth, but you were never on trial, and now they're the ones sitting in judgment, condemned by their own mistake, haunted by the truth that their validation never held the weight they imagined. That's the embarrassment they'll carry forever. Number 3. They gambled you were replaceable. Now they're losing every hand. You can replace a chair, a car, even a house, but you can't replace a soul that rewrote the atmosphere when it walked into the room. Their biggest humiliation? Believing you were replaceable. They thought you were just another face in the crowd, someone easy to swap out, a presence they could carelessly mishandle and later upgrade when it suited them. But chosen ones, let's pause and ask the obvious. How do you replace a force of nature? How do you duplicate energy that doesn't exist anywhere else? The answer is simple. You don't. And that's the gut punch they're living with now. At the time, they told themselves you were convenient, not essential. They thought if you walked away, life would keep rolling without disruption. But notice what happened after you left. The foundation cracked. The balance tilted. The peace evaporated. Because what you brought wasn't surface level. It was structural. You weren't filling a role. You were holding the roof up. Now that you're gone, the leaks are showing. The walls are bending, and every new replacement they try to plug into your spot collapses under pressure. A diamond doesn't lose value when someone confuses it for glass. The mistake belongs to the fool who couldn't tell the difference. That's the embarrassing truth they're choking on. They treated you like you were common, and now they're left fumbling with counterfeits. Imagine them scrolling through new faces, new conversations, new bodies, hoping for even a shadow of what you carried, and all they get is disappointment. Every imitation falls flat. Every next best thing feels cheap. And maybe they're asking themselves now, why doesn't it feel the same? Why does everything taste bland without you? The answer is brutal, because you were the flavor, the seasoning, the life in their lifeless world. You can't duplicate originality. You can't mass-produce authenticity. So let's be clear, they didn't just fumble a person, they fumbled a one of one. They embarrassed themselves thinking they could toss aside the rarest jewel and find another in the dirt. Now they sit with the shame of knowing they didn't lose something replaceable. They lost the irreplaceable, and that regret, it doesn't fade, it festers. Number 4. They misread your aura. Now they're lost in the dark. Some people don't notice the sun until it sets, and by then they're stumbling in the cold night they created for themselves. They had front row seats to your aura and still failed to recognize its worth. That's not just ignorance, that's embarrassment in its rawest form, because your energy wasn't something learned, manufactured, or rehearsed. It radiated naturally, a magnetic pull that shifted atmospheres without you even trying. And yet, instead of cherishing it, they treated it like background noise. Let's make it plain. Your aura was never just charisma. Charisma can be faked, charm can be performed. But your presence, it was deeper. It was the rare current people feel when you walk into a room and the energy instantly changes. They thought it was surface-level attraction, but chosen ones, hasn't it always been more than that? It was the way people felt seen without you speaking, the way they felt calmer, clearer, more alive simply being near you. That wasn't luck, that was your gift. An authentic soul is rarer than gold, and yet the blind treat it like dust. That's the mistake they made. They couldn't put their finger on what set you apart, so they shrugged it off, reduced it, underestimated it. But here's the sting. The moment you walked away, the light dimmed. The atmosphere they once basked in turned hollow. Now they chase sparks that burn out in seconds, trying to replicate what was never replaceable. Imagine this, someone holding fire in their hands and tossing it aside because they didn't understand how much warmth it gave. Now they're cold, shivering, searching for matches that never ignite. That's them. They misjudged your aura, and now they're paying the price in silence and emptiness. And maybe they wonder now, why does everything feel dull without you? Why doesn't anyone else light up the room the same way? The answer is simple, because your aura wasn't surface level. It was rare, authentic, transformative. You were never just another connection. You were the connection. They failed to recognize the value of your aura, and that failure is their greatest embarrassment. Because once you've experienced authenticity, everything else feels counterfeit. And that's the truth they'll never escape. Number 5. They tried to break you. Instead, they built your armor. A storm doesn't destroy the mountain. It only proves how unshakable it really is. Their shame lies in this simple fact. They underestimated your resilience. They mistook your calm silence for weakness, your grace for fragility, and your patience for dependence. They thought pulling away their support, stirring chaos, or blocking your path would knock you off balance. In their mind, you needed them. But chosen ones, when have you ever needed anyone to validate your survival? Never. They believed they had the power to break you. But let's ask the real question. How could people who barely know their own strength measure yours? They didn't see the battles you already endured, the nights you walked through fire, the storms you stood tall in long before they entered your story. You were built in adversity, hardened in silence, trained by trials far greater than their petty sabotage. Their obstacles were nothing compared to the wars you already won. Resilience is when the world expects you to crumble, but you stand taller instead. And that's exactly what you did. Instead of breaking, you became unshakable. Instead of falling, you turned their stumbling blocks into stepping stones. Every trap they set became proof of your ability to outthink, outlast, and outgrow them. Imagine this. Someone trying to drown you by tossing you into deep water, only to watch you rise to the surface stronger, swimming further than ever before. That's the embarrassment they're choking on now. They thought they were pulling you under. Instead, they taught you how to breathe underwater. And now, they're sidelined, powerless, watching you thrive without them. The realization burns. They were never the cornerstone they believed themselves to be. They were just a passing chapter, one you outgrew the moment they revealed their true intentions. The weight of their miscalculation crushes them every time they see you rise higher, because it proves they never had the power they imagined. What doesn't kill you exposes who underestimated you. Their attempts to weaken you only magnified your strength. Their sabotage only wrote their own humiliation. They thought they could break you. Instead, they built your armor. And now you soar beyond their reach, proof that resilience will always embarrass those who bet against it. Number 6. They abused your mercy. Now they're crushed by the consequences. Never confuse forgiveness with forgetfulness. A kind heart is not a blind one. Their embarrassment runs deepest here. They took your forgiveness for foolishness. Instead of seeing your mercy as a rare act of strength, they twisted it into a weakness they thought they could exploit. When you extended grace, they read it as permission. When you chose peace over vengeance, they saw it as naivety. But chosen ones, let's make this clear. Forgiveness isn't weakness. Forgiveness is control. They thought you didn't see, but wasn't it the opposite? You saw it all, the lies, the manipulation, the quiet disrespect. You just chose not to drown yourself in bitterness. That was your wisdom. That was your discipline. But to their shallow minds, your grace was a free pass to keep testing boundaries. And like a gambler who doesn't know when to quit, they pushed too far. Mercy is not endless. It is a gift, and gifts can be withdrawn. That's the lesson they never saw coming. They believed you'd keep forgiving endlessly, that you'd never close the door. But forgiveness, chosen ones, is never about excusing bad behavior. It's about freeing yourself from the poison. And when they confused your release with weakness, they fumbled the greatest gift they'll ever receive: your patience. Imagine this. Someone given a second chance at life, but instead of cherishing it, they waste it recklessly. That's them. You didn't lash out when they crossed the line. You didn't scream or seek revenge. You simply withdrew. Quietly. Permanently. And now that silence is louder than any punishment could ever be. Kindness should never be mistaken for ignorance. They learned this too late, because now they live with the regret of knowing they had access to your mercy and squandered it. They thought forgiveness meant forever. Instead, it was a one-time offering, a privilege they lost through arrogance. So now they sit alone, haunted by the truth. Your forgiveness wasn't weakness, it was strength they could never match. And once it was gone, so were you. That reality is their deepest humiliation. They abused your mercy, and now they're crushed under the weight of consequences they created themselves. Number 7. They tried to cage you, but you grew wings they can't clip. They built a box around you, forgetting that some souls were born to outgrow cages. Their greatest humiliation is this: they never imagined you'd outgrow them. They thought they had you figured out, pinned down, defined by the limits they placed on you. To them, you were predictable, someone who would always stay within reach, dependent on their approval, playing small enough to fit the version of you they were comfortable with. They mistook their narrow perception for your ceiling. But chosen ones tell me, when have you ever been the type to stay confined by someone else's expectations? Never. You weren't just growing, you were transforming. While they tried to keep you in yesterday's box, you were already evolving into tomorrow's version of yourself. You shed their labels like old skin, broke free of the image they crafted, and built an identity on your own terms. The most dangerous thing you can do to someone who underestimated you is evolve where they never expected. That's exactly what you did. And now, every new level you reach burns them with embarrassment, because the person they tried to control doesn't even exist anymore. That version is gone. What stands in its place is someone they were never prepared to face. Imagine this. A gardener planting a seed, expecting a small flower, only to watch it grow into a towering tree whose roots crack the very pot it was placed in. That's you. They underestimated your growth, and now you've shattered the container they tried to keep you in. They stare upward now, stunned by the strength and reach of something they thought would stay small. And here's the bitter truth they can't escape. It's not just your success that embarrasses them. It's the role they played in trying to hold you back. Their doubts, their restrictions, their shallow vision. All of it exposed them as obstacles, not allies. They fumbled the chance to grow with you, and now they're stuck in the past, watching you soar beyond their imagination. You didn't outgrow them by accident. You outgrew them by design. That's what burns the most. They thought they had you contained, but your spirit was never theirs to limit. You rose, you expanded, you became untouchable. And now, their humiliation is watching from the sidelines as you live in heights they'll never reach. Number 8. They tried to dump their demons on you, but you refused to carry them. People don't hate you for your flaws. They hate you for reflecting the flaws they're running from. Their humiliation runs deep here. They projected their insecurities onto you because facing themselves was too heavy a burden. You became their scapegoat, the mirror they tried to shatter instead of fixing their own reflection. Every time your confidence walked into the room, it reminded them of their lack. Every time your potential glimmered, it exposed the mediocrity they were drowning in. And instead of admitting it, they turned you into the target. Projection is just confession in disguise. And that's exactly what their treatment of you was, a confession. Their unnecessary criticism wasn't about your flaws, it was about their envy. Their attempts to shake your confidence weren't about your supposed weakness, but about their deep fear that you were stronger than they could ever be. They blamed you for things that had nothing to do with you, because it was easier than admitting the battle was always internal. Imagine this, someone carrying a bag of rocks but refusing to hold it themselves, so they throw it at you, hoping you'll pick it up. That's what they did with their insecurities. But here's what embarrassed them, your doubt. You didn't pick up the weight. You let their rocks fall flat at your feet. They thought planting seeds of doubt in your mind would make you shrink. But chosen ones, tell me, how do seeds of lies grow in soil made of truth? They don't. You saw through their manipulation, refused to absorb their poison, and chose growth instead. Strong people don't inherit the burdens of the weak. That's the line that stings them now, because while they wasted years avoiding their demons and trying to hand them off to you, you spent those years building resilience. Their projection failed because your spirit wasn't a dumping ground, it was a fortress. And now, their shame is unbearable. They finally see it was never about you. It was always about them, their lack, their fear, their smallness. And while they stayed stuck, circling the same cycle of self-doubt, you soared higher. Their projection didn't break you, it exposed them. And now they live with the embarrassment of knowing you thrived while they choked on their own insecurities. Number 9. They bet against your rise. Now your glow blinds them. The same people who doubted your roots are choking on your branches. Their embarrassment is loudest here. They were completely unprepared for your glow-up. They thought they had you figured out, boxed into the early version of yourself, the one still learning, still finding balance, still stumbling. In their arrogance, they believed you'd stay there forever. To them, you were safe to overlook, safe to take for granted. But chosen ones, isn't it poetic justice when the ones who bet against you are the first to be blinded by your shine? What they didn't see was that every setback, every scar, every lesson was fuel. While they laughed, you rebuilt. While they dismissed you, you sharpened yourself in silence. And now, your transformation has made you unrecognizable. Not in a small way, but in a way that rattles their memory of who you once were. You've stepped into confidence, self-respect, and power so undeniable that even your presence feels like a rebuke to their shallow vision. Glow-ups aren't accidents, they're revenge written in real time. And yours wasn't skin deep, it wasn't just about how you look, it was mental, emotional, and spiritual. You elevated on every level. Your resilience became radiance. Your scars became stories. Your silence became strategy, and they never saw it coming. Imagine this, someone writing you off as a rough draft, never realizing they were holding the early pages of a masterpiece. Now the book is finished, bound in gold, celebrated by those who recognize greatness. And they're stuck embarrassed that they tossed it aside before the story even began. Their humiliation cuts deeper because they realize they only ever valued the in-progress version of you. They underestimated who you were becoming, and now they're forced to watch from the sidelines as the full version of you thrives. You didn't need their validation to evolve. Your growth was your own rebellion. And now the glow-up they didn't believe in is the very thing that keeps them awake at night. Because while they chose to stay small, you rose into something undeniable. They fumbled, and your brilliance is the proof. Number 10. They treated you like a doormat, but now the door is locked. Presence is a privilege, not a guarantee, and once it's gone, the silence is deafening. Their deepest humiliation, believing you'd always be accessible, they treated your time, energy, and care like an endless resource they could tap whenever it suited them. They assumed you'd always be there to answer the call, always ready to listen, to give, to pour into them, as if your presence was permanent, as if your kindness was automatic. To them, you weren't a person. You were a convenience. And yes, for a while, you gave freely. You showed up when they needed support. You offered encouragement without hesitation, and you gave your energy without demanding anything in return. But here's the truth. Every well runs dry if it's drained without being refilled. At some point, you realized your presence wasn't something they were entitled to. It was a privilege, and privileges can be revoked. When you take someone's presence for granted, you gamble with something irreplaceable. That's the gamble they lost. Because the moment you stopped making yourself easily available, the silence hit them like a hammer. Suddenly the door they thought they could walk through any time was locked, and in that void, they felt the weight of everything they took without giving back. Imagine this. Someone who believes the sun will rise for them every day, only to wake up one morning and find nothing but darkness. That's how your absence feels to them now. They relied on your light, but never respected it, and so now one tried Nampua scrambling in the cold shadow they created. Their embarrassment comes from the audacity of their assumption. They thought you'd never draw the line. They thought your loyalty was endless, your patience unshakable, your energy limitless. But chosen ones, wasn't your withdrawal the loudest statement of all? You didn't scream, you didn't fight, you didn't explain. You simply shut the door, and now they're left pounding on it, wishing for access they'll never get again. Your availability is not an obligation, it is a gift. They know that now, but knowing it too late is the punishment they earned. They treated you like a doormat. Now the door is locked, and the key is gone. Their fumble is permanent, and the regret will echo every time they reach for you and find only silence. Number 11. They mistook themselves for your ladder, not knowing you could fly. The most embarrassing thing in the world is realizing someone you thought depended on you was already unstoppable without you. Their illusion of power was built on this. They believed you needed them to succeed. In their minds, their support, their connections, even their shallow approval was the engine behind your growth. They convinced themselves they were the gatekeepers, the ones holding the keys to your progress. Without them, they thought you'd stall. Without their stamp, you'd never climb. But chosen ones, hasn't your life proven the exact opposite? The truth is, you never leaned on them. Your success was never about their crumbs of validation. Every milestone you've reached, every win you've stacked, was built with your own discipline, your own resilience, your own relentless push forward. They weren't the ladder. They weren't the foundation. They were background noise. And now that realization burns them more than anything else. Success is the loudest revenge. And your rise screams volumes, because while they sat smug, thinking you couldn't move without them, you kept building, brick by brick, hour by hour, failure after failure, until it turned into triumph. And the glow they see now, that's not theirs to claim. It was forged entirely in your hands. Imagine this, someone handing you an umbrella in the rain, then bragging as if they built the sun when the clouds clear. That's the arrogance they carried, but your shine has now made them irrelevant. They thought they were indispensable, but you've proven they were nothing more than a passing chapter in a much bigger story. Greatness doesn't borrow its power, it creates it, and that's the embarrassment they choke on. They mistook themselves for the source of your light, when in reality they were just spectators to a glow that was always inevitable. Now they're left watching from the sidelines, humiliated, realizing they were never the key to your success. You never needed their resources, their guidance, or their approval. You only ever needed yourself. And that truth will echo louder than anything they'll ever say. You soared without them, and now they can't stand the view. Number 12. They thought you'd crawl back, but you vanished without a trace. The loudest goodbye is the one spoken in silence. Their deepest humiliation isn't just that you left, it's how you left. For so long, they believed they had you under lock and key. They thought no matter how badly they treated you, you'd stay, second-guess yourself, or beg to hold on to the connection. In their arrogance, they saw you as tethered, bound, dependent. But when the moment came, you proved them wrong in the most brutal way possible. You walked away without hesitation. No begging, no bargaining, no theatrics. Just quiet, effortless detachment that shook them to their core. Nothing bruises the ego more than realizing you were optional all along. That's what eats at them now. They thought they were irreplaceable, but in your eyes, they were disposable. They expected a fight. Instead, they got silence. They expected tears. Instead, they got distance. And that effortless exit humiliated them more than any argument could, because it showed them the truth. Your loyalty was never slavery, and your patience was never permission. Imagine this, someone gripping a rope with both hands, convinced you'll never let go, only to watch you release it with a smile and walk away without looking back. That's the picture haunting them. They assumed you'd cling. But you left so easily, it revealed you had already let go long before you physically walked out. Strength isn't staying where you're mistreated, it's walking away like nothing was lost. And that's exactly what you did. You didn't just leave, you exposed them. Their entire sense of power was built on the illusion that you needed them. When you proved otherwise, that illusion shattered. Now they sit in the wreckage of their pride, replaying the moment you slipped away, stunned by how little resistance you gave. Their ego is scarred because the truth is undeniable. They were never the center of your world. They were never as necessary as they thought. You showed them your strength wasn't in clinging, it was in letting go with ease. And that truth will echo in their minds forever. Because nothing is more embarrassing than realizing the one you thought would crawl back vanished without a trace. And so, chosen ones, the truth is undeniable. Every mistake they made was their own downfall, every fumble their own embarrassment. They thought they had you figured out, but all they did was underestimate the power the universe placed within you. You rose, you grew, and you walked away without regret, leaving them to choke on the silence of your absence. If this message hit home, show your strength by pressing like, subscribing, dropping 77 in the comments, and sharing this with another chosen one. Let's make sure this truth echoes everywhere.